Well, hello, and welcome to the Headless Down with Cloudinary Bootcamp course, lesson number 13. One more to go, and then you've got the entire bootcamp to study and get your certification. Today, we're focusing on AI and how to use it to perform your media tasks. The presenter is Meir Lamed. He's Director of Product Management at Cloudinary. Now, I had a really great interview with him, which you can find in the introduction section of this course on headlesscreator.com. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and bring Meir in. Meir, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and let you take over. For those of you watching live, remember you can ask questions and I'll jump in with any questions they have, Meir. It's all yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, Marcelo. So as Marcelo said, I'm Meir. I'm a product manager here at Cloudinary, and I will be talking about how to get AI and other automations done around your media tasks. And let's jump to it because we have very little time, and I really want to leave you with some good nuggets of knowledge here. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what type of information we can obtain for our assets. And as DAM people, mostly, I assume you know a lot of this, but we're going to focus also on object detectors and how we are able to enhance and that information that we obtain and how we put that into good use. So let's just jump into it. Media chores. I wanted to call this media chores because media chores, my English is not, I'm not a native English speaker, so I'm allowed to make these fouls, right? But I wanted to talk about things that you don't like to do, right? We really have a lot of these repetitive tasks, high volume tasks that we want to get out of the way. And we can use AI, AI, everybody talks about AI today, but in order to really harness it to do our work for us so that we can go to the beach, that's the trick, right? So we're going to talk about some of these common tasks and how we can, make them work much more efficiently. So no per asset changes, right? We're going to we're not going to talk about a specific image and how to fix it, but rather we're looking for these machines that will help us, be better. And this is why I had this quote in here. This is from Eliyahhu Goldratt. He's one of the biggest protagonists of the theory of constraints. Automation is good so long as you know exactly where to put the machine. So the machine needs to be put in the right place to make your entire process more efficient. And talking about that, it's really complex to build AI machines that work at scale, right? There's on the left side here, we have the AI expert or the image processing expert, and they need to train their data continuously. They do new model training and they iterate and they manage corpuses, and it's really, really a tedious job, and it requires very, very high expertise. And then in order to really use these at scale, you need a functioning infrastructure that allows you to utilize these models at scale, and that's a very big DevOps challenge here. And not only DevOps, but also everything here is really, really complicated. Now, this is where we're going to focus on, right? Because this is where we are at as headless developers. We want to utilize and do exactly the task that we get, the task that we want to work on working, and we don't want to focus on these parts so much. So, what is a product manager doing uh, in a developer podcast, right? You're used to having all of these IDEs open and code and working through these complex workflows. That's exactly the point, right? Because I'm a product manager, I'm not a developer, and I'll be able to demonstrate a lot of these capabilities, and just by writing and changing things in the URL in my browser, and that will toggle, that will cause the deployment of models on the back end, and a lot of uh, interworkings, uh, and all of that will be delivered to me or to you over a multi CDN, a global network, and all I have to do is just really edit my URL, which is really the magic of what we're doing. And this is, if there's one thing that you need to come out with here, is that yes, it is complex AI, but with Cloudinary, things are made simple. We provide you with closed scenarios which you can run rather simply. And on the right side, we have the DAM UI user, which is even the less sophisticated user. And we'll not talk about him this time, right? So what type of data do we typically provide or get for media? Sorry. So all of the trivial stuff that you already know, things that we obtain from the media files themselves, we have a lot of different types of files. This is just a sub-selection of the types of media that can enter our system, whether they're raw images from our cameras, or Photoshop files, or PDFs, or vector graphics, or video files, or animations, or audio files, or 3D files. All of those are coming into the system, and for each of these, we need to sort of obtain and extract the data that's interesting to us, and to automation that will allow us to process things at scale, really. So we have the file itself and its attributes. We have things that someone put in that file as metadata: EXIF, XMP, and IPTC. These are the metadata extensions, and there's a long list of things that you can extract from that: the photographer, copyright issue, shutter speed, different things about how the image was taken, or what have you. And let's not focus on that. And then there's media analysis that we do, which provides another layer of knowledge about the files, which helps us to automate other things, right? So pages, frames, layers, illustration versus photographic, saliency, complexity, psychovisual analysis, a lot of things that we have to extract for the file in classical ways, usually, in order to do a good job in all of the domains that we'll talk about soon. And then there's even deeper analysis, where we do some quality assessment on the encoding quality on one hand, and how good the photographer was, right? If he over or underexposed the focus, and even a colorblind score. So that's another section. And then we're left with the pixels. So the pixels, this is where AI comes in. The pixels are translated to structured data that we need to have in order to do some actionable things, like extracting faces, using wide models, and we'll talk about those in a second. These are Cloudinary models, and if Cloudinary doesn't assume to do everything perfectly, right? So we're open as a platform to models coming in from Amazon, these small players, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, and a lot of other smaller ones. They can give us a lot of insight, from OCR to celebrity detection and object detection and video transcription. And all of those are made easy to obtain and streamlined through our pipelines. And as they change, you don't have to worry too much about it because we abstract these for you. And finally, there are the pixels themselves, which we will use in other places. So if looking at just focusing a little bit about the models themselves, they're generic models that give us things like car, person, oven, like hundreds and hundreds of classifications of objects within the model. And each classification has its own confidence level, so you can decide basically if something, the model thinks it's a car, but maybe it's a ship because it's a strange looking car. So the confidence level will be 0.5, and you need to decide whether that's good enough for you or not. But usually not. Usually you don't need to act too much about, worry too much about these things. So, and different objects are also divided into categories. So if I'm a car dealership, when I don't care if it's a van or a sports car, then I can use just transportation and get a wider set of objects. For some models, and let's talk about this in a second, we have an additional level of information that we extract. And then there are the bounding boxes. Bounding boxes help us do things like cropping and other operations that we want to do. Foreground, background, depth, importance is also things that we obtain from, AI models allow us to do that. And that really gives us power in some of the features that we'll talk about in a second. So we talked about generic models. There are different generic models like Elvis, Open Images, Coco, Unidet, which is a unified set of training sets. And each of them have different accuracy levels for different objects. So this is something that we really should test before deciding which model to use. And all of these models are available. There are these more advanced models from Cloudinary, like human anatomy, which breaks down the human physique and allows us to locate specific things within the human body. This is for some types of Cloudinary customers. It's interesting. For a lot of others, the fashion model is interesting. So we get here we have a cardigan and a skirt, but we don't just know where they are and have their bounding boxes. We also have a lot of attributes for them. So the type of opening, the pattern type, the length, different attributes for each of these types of objects, and they can be obtained. And there's a taxonomy, a predefined taxonomy that you can use and decide what type of cardigans, for example, or catalog your assets accordingly. So when we're talking about object detection models, we have a life cycle, right? We have a big team of AI specialists, and they continuously work to improve these and other and custom models and others. So for each model, we have a version, and you can, if you wish, you can access a specific version if it works well for you. So if I want, I can ask for a handbag from the Unidit model V1, or I can ask for a handbag from the Unidit model in general, and that will give me the latest model. And that's probably the best practice that you want. And sometimes we just write handbag, but that doesn't promise us which model will actually return that. So that's only for testing usually. So where can we put the models to good use? Cloudinary tends to divide the world into media optimization, which is one of our major areas of expertise and delivery, of course, media editing, and media management. So these are the three different sections that Cloudinary focuses on. And there's also media creation and other things, but in this presentation, at least, we'll focus on these. So in media management, I wanted to talk about a couple of use cases which are the most prominent. One is automated tagging for search, and the other one is moderation. So the first one is relatively easy. Let's just run to the code, right? Because you're code people, you like code. So we upload an image and we say just detect using this detector, CLD fashion, and set the auto tagging to 0.6. That means that everything that has a confidence above 0.6 will actually be a tag that's associated with that asset. And beyond that, we have a lot of metadata that is added to the asset, including the different objects that are found and their bounding boxes and types and attributes, as we discussed before, right? Okay, now let's go on. So we can use those to search, and we can also search with even more advanced methods. Today in Cloudinary DAM, we support things like searching semantically close images. I can upload an image and search, for instance, for green dresses using an image of a green dress, which, there's a semantic analysis behind that, which allows us to search using that. And free text is also a derivative of that. So I can search for green dresses and I will find images of green dresses. Moderation flows are also an important use case that we see a lot. So if you have either content coming into your website from different sources, let's say you're a hotel or a travel sort of website, and you have images coming from different hotels, and you want to moderate them, you want to make sure there's no adult content by chance, or there's no malware in them, then there are closed circles or closed functionalities that you can use in order to make sure that what's coming into your system adheres to your requirements. So for instance, duplication moderation is another type of moderation which makes sure that you don't have duplicates in your system. So if I'm uploading this duplicate, at first it's fingerprinted and it's added to a duplicate database. And when I try to upload it again with the moderation duplication set, then the image is automatically tested. And if it equal to an image that's already been uploaded to your system, it will be rejected, or it will go to the rejected state. If not, it goes to the approved state. And that's just a way to make things very, very easy for you. Of course, there is AI behind the scenes, and but the APIs and the SDKs supporting these APIs are much, much more simplified to use. And you don't need to think about how to, implement image duplication or similarity. So let's talk about optimization for a second, which is a major case for Cloudinary in general. So you probably had a previous lesson, or you had a previous lesson about quality and format, but we'll talk about where AI comes into that. And automatic cropping is the biggest, by far the biggest scenario that we see across thousands of customers. The world is really changing, and these are things that really need automation. So I assume this is a pain point for you, or it can be a pain point for you, and that's why I'm going to hover a little bit more about on top of this, above this scenario, because it's the most common one probably by far. So setting quality, let's talk about quality and optimal balance between size and quality first. This is something that Cloudinary has been doing for a long time, but we're adding more AI capabilities into that. This is, for example, talks about adaptive compression, which means that there are areas in the image which are less important than other areas. These areas can be compressed more. And so AI tells us what to compress more and what to compress less. And if we look, this is the most compressed version. We can see that the motorcycle itself is kept in pristine, and we're saving a lot of bytes here in the background. So that's really, really helpful for us. And we see, the very, very significant improvements in compression thanks to this. We also have a lot of new AI coming into our compression soon, and that's going to be breaking news, hopefully. So resizing is one of the key things that people want to do all the time. Resizing is compiled of two basic steps, let's say, or two parts. One is art direction. So what in the image is important? What do I want to keep? And then just scaling down the result. You don't want to send excess of pixels down the line. So this is a major way to reduce the number of pixels. So, and there's multiple crop modes in Cloudinary. I can't possibly go into all of those, but I'll say that one of the most commonly used is fill crop. Fill crop is one which maintains one aspect of the image and then crops the rest of the image according to the aspect ratio that we request. That's one major crop mode, which we'll see in the examples that we have here. So basically, we have G-Auto. G-Auto is auto gravity. It tells the algorithm, the cropping algorithm, which part should be in the crop. And so all I have to do is say, I want an aspect ratio of 0.5, which is this aspect ratio, and I want to see fill, right? I want to preserve this this aspect, one aspect of the image, which in this case is the vertical aspect, and I want to focus on the right area. So I'm just saying to, forget, I don't want to care about it. I just give me the auto crop, right? And so this is the result. And then you can say, their faces here. This is not that hard. A lot of, solutions can do that. You don't need really AI for that beyond face recognition. And you would be right. So what happens when there are no faces? What happens when there are too many faces, like crowds or basketball games where you see the crowd or different players? So how does G-Auto do its magic there? It does its magic using AI and a lot of machine learning, and it combines that with other things like faces, saliency, and a lot of other factors. And since we have this huge, this runs literally millions and millions of times each hour on thousands of customers that utilize this algorithm. So it's really well, tested, let's say. So, you get the important part. I can probably change this to each aspect ratio. And it's very typical for a customer to use 20 is not an uncommon number to use for different crops on a single image. And, G-Auto just helps do this at scale. And for most people, this is enough. So if your corpus is relatively not very strange, or you don't want to throw strange things at the algorithm, you don't need to tell it anything more than just G-Auto, and it will do a good job. If one thing you need to remember is that all the complexity that we're going to talk about next is not for everyone. So when do we need to tell the algorithm more on what is to be achieved? If I can't tolerate almost any less ideal crops, right? I really want every single crop to be bang on the button and bang on target, right? And let's look at a less ideal crop, right? There's some text here, and this banner was not cropped perfectly. So maybe I want to tell it I care about text. I don't want to get rid of text, so I'll just say text block here and different crop, which includes the text. And maybe I want, in another occasion, let's say I want a different aspect ratio, 1.5. I actually want to avoid the text because Facebook doesn't allow you to put text in your in your banners, right? That was a thing a while back. So I can just tell the algorithm, try to avoid text. I'll get this instantly. And again, this is over multi-CDN and run on an AI model, and it's done very, very fast. So we have another example here. If I want to crop the same image differently depending on context, so for example, let's look at this. Okay, so
quick question for you, Mayor. Sorry to interrupt you real quick. On the text extraction, that is extremely powerful since, or it's text recognition. Does it also do text extraction, meaning like since it is already recognizing the text in the image, will it do extraction that then you can then use that text, let's say for alt tags or anything else you want to use it for?
Okay, that's an excellent question, and I want to tell a short story here. This specific model only tells you where text is in the image, and it runs really, really fast, and it's a Cloudinary model. Now, if you wanted to do actual OCR, you could ask Google to do that. Let's say we had a theoretical customer, which had, let's say, 10 million images in their DAM, and by mistake, I don't know, 100,000 of these images got pulled in from a competitor. And this competitor had had their name on one of the corners, let's say, of some of these images. And so now I have 10 million or 20 million images in my DAM, and I want to get rid of those that have the text. I want to find those that have the text with my competitor's name. So I could run a Google OCR on all of my corpus, and it would be very, very costly because it's partly about pricing, right?
Right.
So these models from Google, Amazon, they are very, very costly. Unlike the models that we run from Cloudinary, is one of the reasons that we add these models is to make this AI more accessible. So you could run on these 10 million images the the text block model, which is very, very fast and very, very cheap relatively. It's a fraction of the cost. And only on the small amount of images that have text in them, try to do an OCR and see if this is the
I see.
actual text so it's a great example that you gave, and I'm happy to.
So you use the model in Cloudinary to do text recognition, and then out of those, you use the OCR, let's say from Google or Amazon or whichever one, to do the extraction and maybe remove those images, or actually maybe with in the future, I don't know, and we'll talk about a little bit more later. I don't want to derail you from here, but I do have questions about the current AI technology and generating you in painting and out painting. But we'll talk about more in a minute. I'll let you continue.
Okay, I want to talk about the context. So let's say this image is one of my images, and now I'm in the handbag section. So I know I want to focus on the handbag, but if I was in the shoe section, for instance, then I would just put here something like footwear, and I could, I would focus on something different. This is basically one of the ideas. And we can also home in on an object. So if I want just to home in on the handbag, I just say crop out the handbag. I don't need the entire G auto thing for that. These are two different modes. One is to find the best crop using this is like a complexity that probably is difficult to understand now, but these are two different modes that we have: cropping around objects and using objects to prioritize different regions of the image. So this is actually two different modes. Because this is such an important use case, I do want to touch in on some other features that we have. So G-Auto is also for video, by the way, and you can run, we have some examples of videos that the G-Auto section follows the main objects within the video. And sometimes you want to just, implement your own front end. You just want the coordinates. So all you really need to do is just say, Cloudinary, get me the info. I'll do the UI part on my side, on the front end side. So you can also do that. It's not just about obtaining the cropped images, it's also making this data available in the front end. And there's a lot of other examples here, which I will try to bypass because we don't have a lot of time. So we saw that we can tell G-Auto which objects to avoid in some cases. And handling tiled images, this is a neat example because some of our customers have a lot of these types of images which are tiled. Now imagine trying to crop here, there are two faces, you can't get a good result from that, right? So actually this example is trying to show a couple of features here. One is we decompose the tile, we choose the best tile out of the compound image, right? And then the other thing that we do here is actually upscale the image. So if we crop with the center, we get a bad result. If we auto crop, we get a better result. But if we meant for the result to actually include the bike, then we need to tell the algorithm that we want the bike, and then we get the best result. So usually auto is good enough unless we have very, very specific information that we want to pass on to the algorithm to do a better job. And we're talking, really, this is something that we need to understand. We're talking about customers in, let's say, news or media that process huge amounts of media of very, very different sources and compositions. We're trying to get the algorithm to give them good results for 95-98% of their images, and in these cases we need to go the step further and do those customizations, and we'll look at it just now, right? We're talking about editing, but the first part of editing here, or first example, is actually conditional transformation. Conditional transformations are extremely powerful for automation. So this is actually code that you have within your URL. This is a URL, believe it or not, and there are variables here. There are different layering variables, internal variables, and if statements. So we're looking to do specific things when specific things are found in the image, right? So if I have face count, or my ratio is in a specific range, if my aspect ratio is in a specific range, I want to do this type of operation or that, but we can't dive into something this complex. So let's look at some more simple examples here. I want to overlay add an overlay to images that were tagged. Let's say we talked about auto tagging, and now I want to add this sale tag to images of dogs because my store has a Christmas sale for dogs. So if dog in tags, then add a layer, right? And if I were to add a layer with this sale thing and put it in the southwest and rotate it by 30 degrees, all the other powerful things that we could do with Cloudinary. And let's see if we try this on a non-dog image. Let's say, I think I have one with pencils. Yeah, so we don't have the overlay here, right? So that's an easy way to add code and automation directly into your URLs. And of course, we have the SDKs that you can use to build these conditions. You don't need to edit these complex things by yourself. We have elaborate SDKs that allow you to edit conditionals. This is just another example, adding a border to images with face. So I added a border, a blue border, and if I wouldn't have it, add a blurred background for portrait aspect ratio. So I ask here if my aspect ratio is smaller than 1, then do this entire thing that provides me with a blurred border sort of transformation. And it all becomes very, very easy because this is a machine. This URL is a machine, and you can feed it a lot of different images, and it will always provide this effect for portrait images and won't provide it for landscape images, right? Other things that we can do is background removal. I think we're short on time, so I'll really run through this. So let's say I had my original image, and I removed the background, right? And if you can see, this car also, the windows, the background from the windows actually got removed as well, and I placed it with the road image, right? So if I want to take this all off and sort of look what the original looked like, it was something different, but I can automate, removing the background. It's very, very common in commerce scenarios. It's something that's done quite a lot. A lot of times we get small images, as we said, which are crappy, or to upscale this image, just upscale it simply. It would be bigger. It's not very, very good. If you use AI to upscale it, then it's much, much better, right? So this is outpainting, or using super resolution to change the image. Another example of AI effects is drop shadow. So I have this object and I place a drop shadow, and again, it's in the URL. I can probably change the azimuth or something. Let's change it to 100, and let's leave the rest the same. And I'll press enter. So actually now this model was run on our servers, and we produced this AI result. And this AI result is automatically, of course, cached on the multi-CDN configuration. So this is really great. You have this direct path to editing. It's all about really lowering the boundaries, right? We lower the boundaries for developers, between developers and designers. We lower the boundaries between photographers and designers. And of course, product managers can do all sorts of things without developers even.
Mayor, real quick, I know we're almost done here because I know we're running long, but the what you just showed is incredible. And the difference between just adding a drop shadow to an object, let's say in Photoshop, and then what AI did here is it took the object into consideration, and it knew not to add a drop shadow behind the rim of the cup, but underneath the plate only, because that's how lighting would really work. And when people go like, well, what is AI really doing here that Photoshop drop shadow can't do? There's a lot of analysis going on here that I'm assuming. It's not just add a drop shadow behind this entire object. It's analyzing everything. This is extremely powerful, everything you're showing here.
Yeah. So this is the power that we want to put in the hands of developers or anyone. And this is what I was talking about initially. So AI on its own is really neat if you're playing with DALL-E or doing a lot of these things, but using them for our purposes, right?
The application of it.
Yeah, we still have these e-commerce websites that we want to sell. We want to do these crops. We want to do things automatically. So everything around that allows us to automate this at scale is the big and important part that I'm trying to talk about today. Right. There are other examples here, and I don't want to dwell on that.
I'll let you finish, and then we'll finish it off with a short conversation because we're running late. So I'll let you continue.
Just want to mention that we also have video AI in the same manner that it's run on images. It is also run on video. So, for example, finding the most interesting parts in the frame. We talked about G-Auto and the most interesting frames in a video. So if I want to take a long video and turn it into something shorter, there's an example here which I will skip because it's not that good anyway. But you want to make a thumbnail of the video and something that runs for a short time. That can also be automated. And there's another example of zoom panning. Let's say I'm a shop that sells watches or cars. I want to pan and zoom. Instead, I have these static images, and I really want my experience to be a video one or an animation one, so I can zoom pan on specific objects, which is really cool. And that is it. There's a lot more things coming up. We have Cloudinary Labs running a lot of new experiments and new things and new features that are going to be introduced into the platform. And we also have a public roadmap, and we would be very, very delighted if you could add your comments or requests to that public roadmap. That's all interactive, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed it and you got some nuggets to take tomorrow. I hope everyone will.
It was amazing, Mayor. It was amazing.
Out.
That was an incredible presentation. It's so good to be alive during this time, because everything that's happening with AI, it's literally changing the world. And what you showed today is, and I mean, it's just powerful, right? Because a lot of these things that used to take us forever to do, now AI can help us accomplish them quicker. A question for you about generative AI and, the whole craziness. You mentioned DALL-E. You have Stable Diffusion, you have Midjourney. There's a lot going on, and you guys are allowing replacement. Are you going? I mean, I don't know if you can share this, but maybe you're working on this. But are you going to incorporate any generative functionality? Meaning, like, let's say you showed the example of the image where you have the purse, and the purse was green. Now Definitely. You can do text prompt engineering where you can say replace the green purse with a red purse, right? So it changes the color.
That's something we do even without AI, but on video it requires AI, and it's definitely things that are coming up.
Right.
A lot of exciting things, and I think we should have another session with
Let's do it.
Some of our innovation guys can expand on that. But
yeah, definitely. It's awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
I agree.
Mayor, you did great. Thank you so much. I thank you for sharing your knowledge with the community. You did a fantastic lesson. If people want to get a hold of you, that email is the best?
Yes, either the email or LinkedIn, or as I said, you can go into the roadmap and leave your comments there. I review the relevant comments as well. So I'm, definitely. Awesome. Reach out, please.
For sure.
We want to know what you think and what
Mayor,
you want.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thanks to the rest of you for watching. This was a great lesson, exciting times. And remember to continue your journey learning all about the digital asset management systems by watching the next lesson, lesson 14, which will be the final lesson. Also, if you want to get your knowledge certification, make sure you use the study guide for this lesson, which you can find in the bonus section of this course. And as always, if you want to get a hold of me right there, I'm just stuttering here because I'm so excited about all this AI stuff. Get a hold of me at marcelo@headlesscreator.com. So until the final lesson, we'll see you